the ordinance related to the CID at Truman Village. If you do have any.
Just a quick kind of update. Basically, we have filed the paperwork with the Department of Revenue to terminate the sales and use tax. District never really kind of functioned the way it was intended to function just because of the nature of the economy and the development that occurred. So we're looking to close it out and eliminate it altogether. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. If not, thank you very much.
She's awesome. Your daughter is a lot like you. Yeah, well, I would actually, it was.
I'm serious. The same. came, they're supposed to. State or prosecutor turned it to state. They're supposed to turn it over, but they, county and state. Yeah. Yeah, start people staying there, yeah. Yeah. That's what it comes down to. It's the building itself. We don't issue.
That looks like they're doing it all day.
It's a dilemma. See, fix and you know, transient moving in there and rock stuff. First thing you see when you come northbound stairs, the border of the hotel. I know. It's a mess. But apparently the state gave more time. The health department.
Everything.
Well, yeah, I mean, that'd be up to Brian, I guess. Matter, Terry. But, yeah, I told them to inform them of that as well. Carrie told me they didn't. Yeah. It's a mess. I was hoping the health department, state attorney general. So they refer it over there.
So.
You know, they'll shut that. Oh, yeah. I mean, the whole thing. Dan had a list, I don't want to bring it up, but I mean, it's all pages. And yeah, it went into 2 pages. So.
All the way at the bottom. Yeah, you got our minutes. Events, references.
And then we have to deal with it, you know. Yeah. Sorry.
But you're at least four. That's me. Revenue sharing agreement with Jefferson County. And
Ding, 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 ding.
I declare this public hearing closed. And I now would like to call the meeting of the Festus City Council to order. Roll call, please.
Councilman Boyer,
Here.
Councilman Collier,
Here.
Councilwoman Templeton. Here. Councilman Weiner.
Here.
Councilman Dennis,
Here.
Councilman Vins. Councilman Cook,
Here.
Councilman Tenen.
We have a quorum. Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And we ask that you please remove your hats while in the council room. Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. Tonight's bills total $1,170,018.17.
So moved.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded. Roll call, please.
Councilman Cook.
Yes.
Councilman Benz. Councilman Dennis.
Yes.
Councilman Waiter.
Yes.
Councilwoman Templeton.
Yes.
Councilman Collier.
Yes.
Councilman Boyer.
Yes.
Motion passes. Remarks of visitors.
We received none, sir.
Thank you. We'll go right into the bids. The police department. We have a bid for an ammunition purchase. Chief?
Tonight, I'm requesting that we approve all of our ammunition purchase tonight. The amount is $10,105 through Gulf State Distributors. Gulf State's the regional representative for this area. We're bypassing the middleman. We're going right to the distributor to handle this out. One of the reasons we're doing it all at once, we don't know when we're going to get our ammo. You know, with shipping and some of the problems we're having across the country, we still have an order out that we made in May for rifle ammunition that we haven't got yet. So we're trying to get in early as we can, and hopefully one day, in the near future, it'll all show up. But this is for our 45, 223 shotgun and 38.
Is there any discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the purchase of ammunition from Gulf State Distributors for $10,105.
So moved.
Motion's been made and seconded. And roll call, please.
Councilman Boyer.
Yes.
Councilman Collier.
Yes.
Councilwoman Templeton.
Yes.
Councilman Weiner.
Yes.
Councilman Dennis.
Yes.
Councilman Benz.
Yes.
Councilman Cook.
Yep.
Motion is approved. Buy your ammunition, Chief.
Thank you very much.
Or at least order it anyway. Second bid tonight is for an epoxy flooring for the animal control shelter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. For your consideration this evening, I'm requesting your approval for $16,650 to replace or remove and replace the existing epoxy floor and the animal shelter. This is the area where we keep the dogs and cats and all the way into the office. So it's the entire building that's under roof will be replaced. We only received one bid, but I did a little bit of research. I believe that these folks have the qualifications necessary to get it done right. So it's an organization out of DeSoto, Missouri called No Limits Contracting.
Is there any discussion?
Yes, sir. Matt, I apologize. I'm trying to pull it up on my phone because I left my laptop. You said one bid. We only
Yes, sir.
got one company that bid back out of 3 or 4 bids, or we only went to one?
This was a formal, since it's over 10,000, this had to be advertised in the newspaper. So we had several quotes budget time, and all those vendors were contacted, but only one bid back was received, and it has to be formally submitted where we open them at a specific time and date.
Okay.
And it did come in under
Yes, sir.
16,600 rather than 20,000
Yeah.
also.
And it was in range with the 3 that we presented during the budget time.
Is there any other discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the bid of $16,650 from No Limit Contracting to epoxy the floor in the animal control area.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Roll call, please.
Councilman Benz,
Yes.
Councilman Cook,
Yes.
Councilman Dennis,
Yes.
Councilman Boyer,
Yes.
Councilman Weiner,
Yes.
Councilman Collier,
Yes.
Councilwoman Templeton.
Yes.
Motion passes. We also have a bid tonight for the security project at Public Works.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Mayor and council, for your consideration is a replacement of three of our exit doors. So this is in relation to the permissions control project that we are currently working with to procure. The doors, however, the two back doors on this building and one of the doors on the Public Works building are just shot. They need to be replaced. There's no use of putting new permissions control on a door that we have a hard time keeping it closed. So it wouldn't be much good. So unfortunately, we didn't get these bids included in the actual budget for the original procurement. So these had to be procured separately. So this is the same contractor that's installing all the hardware on the doors for us. So they'll also be replacing the doors now with your guys' approval. So one thing to add, please, if there is a consensus among the council to make the motion, please add the statement that you would also be approving their 50% deposit. Because of the supplies and the difficulties they have with ordering things, they'd like a 50% up front so they can place that order. So they'd like us to approve this motion with 50% up front to buy the doors in essence, so that they're paid for upon ordering.
Is there any discussion?
Yes, sir. I apologize. Greg helped me out. I don't recall this on the budget. So how would this?
This was, if you recall, we obligated ARPA funding to the security upgrade project and the generator projects. The back doors were not included in the original bid. However, Abiding Locksmithing did provide the low bid to do all of the other work on all of the access controls. So when we got into it, especially the door on the back of the PD, which is about to fall off its hinges, we went back to Abiding and asked them for an additional price because it just seemed unreasonable to put brand new access controls on doors that are really past their serviceable use.
Is there any other discussion? Yes, ma'am.
So this will be added to the ARPA funding, so there would be about 652,000 left for the barn renovation project. That you, just so you know, that's where the money is.
All righty. Thank you, Stephanie. Is there any other discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve a bid from Abiding Locksmith for $14,735.25.
So move.
With the 50%
With the 50%
Down
upfront.
up front.
deposit.
Still second. I think Kevin.
Motion's been made and seconded. Roll call, please.
Councilman Boyer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Templeton,
Yes.
Councilman Collier,
Yes.
Councilman Weiner,
Yes.
Councilman Dennis,
Yes.
Councilman Cook,
Yep.
Councilman Benz.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, sir.
Ordinances and resolutions. Tonight, we have Bill 4707, which is the second reading only, second reading. Madam Clerk, would you please, do I have a motion to read Bill 4707 for the second time?
So move.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Hearing none. Motion carries. Would the clerk please read the bill 4707 for the second time?
Bill number 4707, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Festus, Missouri, approving the conditional use permit for 122 North Adams and establishing an effective date.
Okay, we will take the vote after we have a discussion. Go ahead, Mark.
Did you want me to repeat the staff report?
Yes, please.
Sure. This was for the 122 North Adams, the application for a conditional use permit. It's currently zoned B3 and to be used as a lodging house would require conditional use from the council. Got any
Okay.
questions? There are a couple representatives here. If they haven't answered anything for you already.
I know Mark and I have spent some time talking to Mr. Dino. Art Dino is here with ACPD. If you have any questions specifically on the operation of the house, he's here to answer those questions for you at this time. If you do, I know Mr. Dino will be happy to come up and address them.
Greg, this is the ordinance reading, correct? So we can have a discussion. I can ask you a question.
Absolutely.
I'm okay with it. The only request I have is it's in a residential area. I would like to see, since it's a PUD, what's your thoughts on if we put some type of special clause on it that you, Mark, the council, however you guys want to handle it, comes back for a review, just to make sure we don't issue this PUD with no type of ability to ensure there's no problems and to reassure the citizens that live in that area that we will review this if there's any type of issues.
I don't think there's any issue with putting a time review on the conditional use, Brian.
Well, there may be, and to clarify, it's a conditional use permit rather than a PUD or a planned development. The conditions have to be reasonably related to the criteria in your code for a conditional use permit. What I guess I would suggest is that if this is approved by the council and it subsequently is being operated in a way that's inconsistent with your code or inconsistent with your inconsistent with the criteria in the conditional use permit or becomes some sort of a nuisance, the council would always have authority to either revoke or impose additional conditions if it came to that. So I think imposing a predetermined you must come back to get another approval a year from now or wherever would be a little bit more problematic than I guess just ordinarily review based on their conduct.
Brian, would it be reasonable? It's not a condition that states that they have to come back and reapply, but more that staff would review and report back to council whether there were any code violations, calls for service at a predetermined time.
Sure, I think that's fine, so long as there's not, I guess, a ongoing obligation on the applicant or that their approval would expire at a particular time.
Can we set like quarterly? I mean,
We can certainly,
unless something happens that from the police department or even fire department, that something's going on, in which case that would be more of an emergent, hey, this needs to be adjusted now.
I think if we find that there are some code violations or there's a number of calls for service, it would be reasonable to bring that report back to council and that you would be able to review it. And if you needed to take action, you'd be able to do that at that time.
Last question, Greg. What's your thoughts, chief? You're pleased.
I read the rules and regulations that were sent me today, and the one thing that has me concerned is that somebody is ejected from the program, made to leave. I couldn't see anything in there unless it. When I read the rules and regulations today that Mark had sent me, if somebody's removed from the program, I didn't see any speculation or any requirements in there on how they're removed. They're just removed. Are they put out on the street into the neighborhood? Is there somebody comes and gets them and takes them home? I think it's a weak area if we rely on family to come to take care of somebody who they have in that facility. My biggest fear is if they're removed from the program, where do they go? If a guy comes in intoxicated or drugged, and you say that's a violation of the rules as I saw today, I didn't see anything in it that said how he will be removed or where he'll be removed to. It's just that he will be removed. or she will be removed. I see that as a problem if they're just put back out on the street.
Would it be reasonable to ask Mr. Dino to come up and maybe answer that question? You okay with that, sir?
Yes, I think that would be reasonable. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, guys. If there is someone to be removed, they are not released back on the streets. I personally or staff take them to where they need, if they need help, either A, to the hospital, B, we get them into another center to get the help that they need. But they won't be just left on the street unattended. We just don't say, hey, there's your door there, you're back on the streets. I'm responsible for them to make sure they get the help that they need after that.
But how would you force them to do that? I guess that's my concern.
Well, it's like anything. You can't force anybody even to go to treatment, but they're well aware of that. And they're far enough along in recovery where that doesn't, if it does happen, they're still in their right mind where they know they need help and they're going to abide by. I've never had a problem in all the people that we've helped so far in the last 7 years.
Is there any other questions?
Sir, I had a lady write me today, Donna Kosick, I believe is the way it's pronounced. And if you don't mind, I'd like to read her letter and maybe you could address some of her concerns and maybe clear up items that can be cleared up. She says, Mr. Wayner, I cannot stress enough that the home of 122 North Adams is zone B3. To let it be a rehab home for men, this is a bad idea. And you can interrupt me anytime you'd like to, sir.
Well, it's not a rehab home, but go ahead.
Okay. I understand that people need a second, third, and fourth chance in life. This is located across the street from a school. Elderly women and families live there. When it was still warm out, there were a couple of different men walking up and down the sidewalk, screaming on the phone several times and yelling from their porch.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, so for what it's worth, when I read your house rules here, and one of the things that it says, you have a really your good neighbor policy, and I think from what I'm reading, you really do try to incorporate the will of the community in there so that there are problems, they're addressed. I mean, that's what I see when I see this. Loud noise shall be prohibited, period. Parking shall be restricted. Clients shall not loiter in front of the homes. Clients shall not use any lewd or offensive language outside of the dwelling, and so on and so forth. So, I mean, what I'm reading sounds reasonable. It sounds like you're trying to do the job that needs to be done to alleviate these concerns, is what I'm saying. When it was still warm out, there were a couple of different men walking up and down the sidewalk, screaming on their phone several times and yelling from their porch. So if that happens, the neighbors, if you don't know about it, it's up to them to be able to notify you of what's going on so that you can be aware of that then?
They're more than happy to let us know, come knock on the door, whatever. It's just like if you're in a residence and somebody's out there screaming at their kids or screaming whatever, what do? It's no different than these guys, but I can assure you, that's the first I've heard of it. And we're pretty good about that. And if there is a problem, I can go back on the cameras and look at everything and go back and say, yes, this did happen, whatever. And the individual's reprimanded. But this is the first I'm hearing of it too.
Okay.
And I haven't had any problems since we've been there. Matter of fact, the neighbor next to us, the neighbor beside us on the other side, I mean, the guys are always constantly doing something and helping out, since Thanksgiving Day, just to kind of let you guys know, we've had 17 people in the Festus area walk in the streets that we have gotten off the streets and got them the help that they've needed through our program being down here. So there's a lot of people that are walking these streets in front of Walmart, up and down Main Street, whatever, that do need help. Now that they know we're in the area, they're coming to us some help. Nobody knows about that part of it. So we've taken 17 individuals, men and women that are on the streets here, constantly getting calls from Mercy Jefferson in the behavioral health units to help people get into some kind of treatment away from here, not here, but away from here. And that's what we're doing. And so the people that are hearing about us and what we're doing on here, we're not only giving the men that are here an opportunity to continue on their recovery, but we're helping the community while we're here also.
Okay. Would it be possible? I know sometimes it's like, oh, you need to contact
Mhm.
you, for instance, and maybe people don't know phone numbers, they don't know whatever. I mean, would it be possible maybe to distribute like leaflets or something in the immediate area so that people, would
Yeah.
have a contact number?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, my number is readily available on our site. Anybody can call me. My phone starts ringing at 4:30 every morning. It stops about 1 o'clock.
Right.
But we can post our number. We can post the staff's number for somebody to contact if there is a problem, because that's what we want. If there is a
I
problem,
understand.
we want to be able to solve it and move forward.
You have elderly people that may not have access to the internet, for instance, or may not be web browser,
Sure.
may not do that.
Sure.
So
We'll be more than happy
Um,
to pass some flyers out or
um,
leaflets.
what Councilman Cook was talking about as far as like a time frame for review, is it my understanding that we can do that or we cannot, or excuse me, just one sec. So I don't want necessarily like a code violation to be a problem. If somebody's yelling, for instance, that's not a code violation for the city, but it is a code violation for you.
Absolutely.
So, how can we make that work so that the neighbors feel protected and the city does its job?
Besides this one issue that you're reading, which I'm not aware of, has anybody else heard of anything that's happened down there or something going on in the neighborhood or area in the community? Because I haven't heard of anything and I'm firsthand. I was there all day today. I had meetings.
Are you actually open?
Yes, whoever said that.
I thought this had to go through us before you could open.
Well, I mean, they're there, yes.
So when you say there, it was my understanding we had to approve this, the zoning change for it to be happening. But you're telling me you went ahead and went anyway?
This,
How did that happen?
well, we had already started and somebody brought it to the zoning board's commission. So this is why we're here, because we were already moved in there. And then it got brought up and now we're here, we're going through it. We were here the last month or so.
I'm not sure what to say about that. So on whose authority did you go ahead and set this up without? Because this is not your first one, right?
In Missouri, yes.
Okay. So whose authority did you go ahead and set this up without getting your paperwork in order?
We didn't have authority, if you're asking, no.
So you went ahead and did it without
We
authority.
didn't come to the zoning. We didn't come to ask for permit for that. We went through the zoning as far as making sure the house was up to code and everything before
Right.
we moved in.
So you needed like a conditional use for it. And so, didn't know that. So what do you do about that, Mark, when they've already pretty well doing it anyway? Cat's kind of out of the bag.
Sure, that happens quite often with any business or residence. People move it. We just don't track where everyone moves in. The home was rehabbed. We issued it a clear occupancy. I don't want to speak for them, but they moved in. Once we got wind of what was going on, we started this process.
So would there be any cease and assist at that time? Or we're just given leniency because they didn't follow the rules?
I don't know that they were aware of the rules. I mean, I
We
just,
weren't.
I don't know what to say. It happens happens on a daily basis in our office. Sure.
Kevin, the continued operation of the home is contingent on the conditional use. So if council grants it this evening, the house will be able to continue to operate. If not, they'll have to cease operations there.
Do we have other facilities like this in town?
Be pretty much the first of its type. It's the first of its type in Jefferson County, first of its type in Missouri,
Other group home type facilities though,
not that are catering to this specific audience.
but.
There are other group home operations in town, yes.
Is there any other discussion? If not, Madam Clerk would. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sir. Come ahead. Hmm?
Well, evidently, it's too late to complain. I missed the first meeting and I realized that was my fault. But anyhow, we have rent property across the street from this property.
And what's your name,
My
sir?
name's William Hayes and it's my wife Judith. And we've been in the rental business in this town for at least 40 years. And we have tried our very best to keep anything associated with drugs out of our property and out of our community. And anyhow, we have two very good senior citizens that live sideways across the street from this building. And I think it's going to be very detrimental to them. And I think they'll probably move when they find out this is happening. And I do not think it's good for the neighborhood. So, and I thought Comtree took care of stuff like this anyway. So,
All righty, sir. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for your comment.
okay.
I would also like to say, even though we are against this, that I do extend my sympathy to the gentleman's loss of his son. But it's a quiet family neighborhood, and I
And a
think that,
daycare across the street,
pardon me.
a daycare across the
Yes, we
street.
have a daycare with little children running around across the street at the Sacred Heart schooling there. And also, I think that it's very close to Main Street, which there are things go on Main Street. And I'm sure you are aware of all that.
Yes, ma'am.
And so that would be a great temptation to them, I would think, to hook up with somebody that could supply them with the drugs and whatever. And so the location, in our opinion, is very poor. And like we say, we had plans to perhaps sell the building. I'm 88, my husband's 90, and we had hoped this year to maybe sell the property there. And I think that it would be very hard to attract someone to buy it with that is across the street. And I feel sorry for the person that gets addicted. And we had someone in our own family that was addicted. And so I know what they went through, and it's very courageous if they try to straighten themselves out. But I do think they should have a different location other than a family neighborhood. And I don't think it was fair for them to move in before we were even notified of that.
All righty. Thank you very much. Thank you for your comments.
Can I,
Go ahead.
as your first responders behind me can probably witness, there's more harm and drugs on the street than where we're at. It's a daily struggle out there. It's the number one leading cause of death right now in the United States. I can assure you, I would invite anybody to come down and take a tour of the house anytime they want, 24/7. You can pop in anytime you want. This house is immaculate. The men are in there are far enough along. They've already been to recovery. That's the point I need to stress to everybody. They have already been to long-term recovery, coming back in aftercare. So they're there to help. They're policing the area when they see something or whatever. They're helping out. They're not hurting that. And that's that stigma that everybody has got to break. My phone does not stop ringing. You know how many families I've helped in Jefferson County out here over the past 7 years? Thousands. And it doesn't stop ringing. I sent the young man out to a long-term program today from DeSoto.
Is there do you have any other comments?
No, sir.
All righty,
I think Ms.
thank you,
Carmen-
sir.
I own the home, and before anyone was there, when we were doing the remodeling on it, I did go down to planning and zoning. And it looked like at the time that we would fall under the lodging because of our zoning. And I can tell you, before, I could not even keep the utilities. If the neighbors are worried about that house, the house has never looked better as far as the neighborhood goes. And I couldn't keep utilities on at my house setting empty because I had homeless in there. I had people cooking meth on my kitchen stove. So drugs were on that corner and we couldn't keep them off. And I don't know that there's any record of it really, but I was at 3 o'clock in the morning down at the police station and I would have needles and I would have things in my hands. And the police had to set me down and explain to me that when I went in there and I touched anything or I moved anything, that I ruined everything right there. So I would put people in my car and take them up to the homeless shelter and they didn't stay. So what I would like you all to consider is the fact that there were drugs there and we could not keep them away. Now, there's no drugs in that house. There's no drugs on that corner. So the neighborhood is better for that. These men are not court ordered to be there. They're there because they've chosen to be there. And they're there because they passed the behavioral part. Will they fit into a small group without causing trouble? You know, it's.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes,
We
ma'am.
had drugs all over that corner.
All right,
And we don't now.
we're gonna have to end the discussion.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. At this time, we'll take a roll call vote.
Hey, Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
what will, if we decide to pass this for Chief Lewis's sake, what can we put in there if something would, like he talked about, just what?
I think, Bobby, if you would like for us to present a report back to council on any activity, whether it's call for services, any code violations, we can do that within the time that you specify.
Well, I mean, just so Chief Lewis can let his police officers all know where they stand, so they're not going in there blinded and not doing the right thing.
I don't follow.
His concern was, being called to go there.
Mhm.
Well, he goes there, if they're outside, takes them back or takes them somewhere else and they keep,
I think,
what jurisdiction or what?
well, I mean, the jurisdiction is the same. It's, if they're violating law inside the city of Festus, then that's the jurisdiction.
Can we be can the PD be notified if somebody's going to be asked to leave? So that at least he's got the heads up of this person is going to be, just so that he knows that, yeah, they're going to be transported somewhere else. away
I
from
don't
that
think we
facility.
can put that condition on no, not right now, Mr. Dino. Brian, I don't think we can put a notification requirement on them, can we? If someone's being removed from the home as a condition of the conditional use?
Not, I can't really think of a clean way to do it, is I guess the best way to put it. And I guess it would depend who they're. Would the proposal be to just notify the police department whenever we have someone that we're being that's being
Transitioned
removed?
away.
Okay. I don't know how that would work as a practical matter and how often that's how big of an administrative burden that would be on both the city and the applicant. But I think in concept, at least, it's probably something you could do as an amendment to the ordinance as a condition of approval.
My problem is it's an afterthought. This whole procedure went through, rehabbed, put people in there before anyone even asked what rules and regulations did we need to abide by. And it appears that neighbors weren't contacted to let them know that this is coming. This doesn't smell right. You know, I've never heard anything in the city that just went ahead and asked for forgiveness later. You know, there's rules and regulations on what we have to do, ordinances and this, that, and another, and none of these were abided by. And I was okay with this until I heard that, but you can't just go in there and set up shop and then find out you need all this and then go back. You've already put the facility in there. It's been functioning. I just don't see how this cat got out of the bag here.
Well, I think, Kevin, frequently we have instances where we find that residents, our property owners are not in compliance, and all we seek is not any type of punishment, but to bring them compliant. And that is certainly the case here. It was discovered after the house began operations that they were in violation of our code and would need to be compliant or cease operations. So it was at that time. And this isn't the only time this happens. We, again, more than anything else, just seek for residents, property owners to be compliant with our code. If it's something that is found later on, you know, I was talking to Councilman Cook and there was some concerns about some construction debris. All we really want is for them to clean up their mess. And we will get on that first thing in the morning. So in this case, the house did begin operations, but now we're seeking for them to be compliant, and they need the conditional use permit to do that. Without the conditional use permit, they would have to cease operations.
Is there any other discussion? If not, I'll call for a roll call vote, please.
Councilman Cook,
Nay.
Councilman Vins,
Yes.
Councilman Dennis,
No.
Councilman Weiner,
Yes.
Councilwoman Templeton,
Yes.
Councilman Collier,
Yes.
Councilman Boyer.
Yes. Bill 4707 has passed. Moving right along, we have Bill 4709 on the agenda for tonight. Would the clerk please read the bill for the first time, please?
Bill number 4709, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Festus, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to enter into and execute a revenue sharing agreement with Jefferson County, Missouri for the 1/2 of 1% sales tax for capital improvements to publicly maintained roads, incorporating said agreement as part of this ordinance, prescribing the conditions thereto, and establishing an effective date.
Bill 4709 is now up for discussion. Can I have a staff report?
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, before you tonight, I'm requesting your approval of this annual agreement. So every year, the Jefferson County Council sends us this request to approve these funds for use for our transportation purposes. So this year, we're programming $716,500 for the Sunnyside group. That'll be asphalt overlay, perhaps some sidewalk and curb where it is some. Again, this is something we do on an annual basis, and these funds have already been programmed in our budget.
All righty. Is there any other discussion?
Hey, Brian, should I abstain from this since I am employed by the great Public Works Department of Jefferson County and I do have some interactions on the budgets?
I'll leave that up to you. I mean, I think it's a matter of whether you have a personal financial interest in this, and I think I suppose I could see where an argument would be made of appearance of impropriety.
Is there any other discussion? If not, do I have a motion to suspend the rules and read Bill 4709 for the second time in title only?
So moved. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Hearing none, motion carries. Madam Clerk, would you please read Bill 4709 for the second time in title only?
Bill number 4709, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Festus, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to enter into and execute a revenue sharing agreement with Jefferson County, Missouri for the 1/2 of 1% sales tax for capital improvements to publicly maintained roads, incorporating said agreement as part of this ordinance, prescribing the conditions thereto, and establishing an effective date. Councilman Boyer,
Yes.
Councilman Collier,
Yes.
Councilwoman Templeton,
Yes.
Councilman Weiner,
Yes.
Councilman Dennis,
Yes.
Councilman Benz,
Yes.
Councilman Cook abstains.
Yes, ma'am.
Motion passes. Bill 4709 has passed. We also have Bill 4710 on the agenda. Would the clerk please read the bill for the first time?
Bill number 4710, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Festus, Missouri, approving a petition filed by the Board of Directors of the Truman Village Community Improvement District, terminating and dissolving the district and authorizing certain actions in connection therewith.
Bill 4710 is now open for discussion.
As we had the public hearing and Pat was here from, or still here from Develop Dynamics. This is to close the Truman Village CID. Any funds, once all the paperwork is taken care of with the state, would revert back to the city. It's not a substantial sum, but they would become general fund monies at that point.
Is there any other discussion? If not, do I have a motion to suspend the rules and read Bill 4710 for the second time in title only?
So moved.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Hearing none, motion carries.
Bill number 4710, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Festus, Missouri, approving a petition filed by the Board of Directors of the Truman Village Community Improvement District, terminating and dissolving the district and authorizing certain actions in connection therewith. Councilman Boyer,
Yes.
Councilman Collier,
Yes.
Councilwoman Templeton,
Yes.
Councilman Weiner,
Yes.
Councilman Dennis,
Yes.
Councilman Benz,
Yes.
Councilman Cook.
Yep.
Bill 4710 has passed. Appointments or new business. We have an appointment to make. One of the most important jobs to ensure the safety of the city is the chief of police job. We have to have a highly qualified individual who is dedicated to this city and the department. It is my privilege to appoint Captain Doug Wendell as the chief of police. The effective date of the appointment would be April 24th, 2023. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilman Cook,
Absolutely, yes.
Councilman Boyer,
Yes.
Councilman Collier,
Definitely, yes.
Councilwoman Templeton,
Yes.
Councilman Weiner,
Yes.
Councilman Vins,
Yes.
Councilman Dennis.
I want to say something before I vote. I was on the police personnel committee when we hired him the first time. So I'm going to give an absolute yes.
Captain Wendell, if you'll come forward.
I would like to congratulate you on being the next chief of police for the city of Festus.
Thank you very much, sir. I won't let you down. Trust me.
Okay, right.
Thank you. Thank you.
No, Greg, he doesn't get Chiefs pay now till he starts,
No,
correct?
not till May 1st. I know there's been some questions about it. Just to clarify, the council meeting in April, which is the 24th, if I remember correctly, would be the swearing in ceremony and an opportunity for Chief Lewis to hand the baton over to his very capable captain at that time.
Thank you. Do we have any old business?
We do. Matt, I don't know if you would like to do the introductions. I can certainly do that if
Oh,
you
go
like.
ahead. I got.
Okay. It's been some time coming. We have hard copies here. We did email out the full plan, and we will be able to do some screen sharing here for Kevin as well. But happy to introduce from East West Gateway, Paul Hubman, who has helped guide us through the Maine to Mississippi process for over a year now. It was probably back in November of last year that we started looking at selecting the design firms, and excited to have you here tonight. Finally, Paul.
Well, thanks. No, this is a pleasure. I enjoy coming back. And actually, I'm encouraged that you kind of wanted to hear more about it. So my name is Paul Hubman, East West Gateway. Thank you, Greg and Matt. So just as a quick synopsis, we got involved in this project actually because Matt and Greg and their partners, Crystal City, reached out and said, hey, we wonder if there might be a good project here with this planning assistance program that we do. We came and looked at it, and just through a couple of circumstances, we wound up just running with this project. It seemed like such a good fit. We were very excited to kind of get going on it. So it's this collaboration of Festus and Crystal City, the Twin Cities. And then the planning program, Great Streets Initiative, is through East West Gateway. And then the consultant team that Greg referred to, it was multidisciplinary. We had planners, we had landscape architects, we had market analysts, transportation planners, engagement consultants, really kind of taking a hard, long look at how things are currently working down here, and then working with the community to kind of come up with some long-term plans. And this works. It didn't. That's okay. I'm sorry? Yeah, no, you're good. So this is the project site. So we looked at Maine to Mississippi, basically city hall to city hall. And one of the things that we became apparent very quickly, just kind of looking at this from a planner standpoint, is the neighborhoods, the communities, all the assets you've got here. But you also have a number of barriers, the highways, the rail lines, where there's some flooding issues, things like that. We just wanted to try to capitalize as well as we could on what your community's goals are and how to get there. And just some initial thoughts we had coming in. Again, it's both the cities and the history of working together, and how we can kind of really, encourage that and fortify that through the planning process. And then better connecting the neighborhoods, making that road as strong an asset as it can be for the neighborhoods behind it. When we're looking at a roadway, we're looking at more than just the street curb to curb. It's the buildings, it's the people, it's the businesses, it's all of these different things.
So the schedule that we jumped into, Greg alluded to it. I'm not going to jump into detail, but we were here for several months. Repeatedly, and other than the snowstorms that kind of kept us at bay a couple of times, we had really good interactions with your communities. Some common broad goals that came to up front after working with you guys initially. And it's make it work for pedestrians, one connected district. Think about this place as a greater whole, not necessarily Festus and Crystal City and the places in between. Parking is always an issue every place we go. You have a number of green spaces and assets that, we want to amplify those as much as we could. The highway crossroads where Truman and Bailey intersect. Ironically, you've got good market capacity there for development, but it's a really tough place to navigate, whether you're in a car or on foot or on a bike. We know that more and more home buyers are wanting those sorts of choices, those types of places that work well for moving around without getting in your car necessarily. Business development, key. Also the historic character. You have some real gems here. And then options for living. We saw some real opportunity for diversifying some housing stock. And both in terms of price points and also who these places are marketed for, young families, elderly people, all those things. Do they have to move out of their neighborhood when their house doesn't work for them anymore? Do they have options to stay in their community? So there were some broad issues that kind of cross over all those things. Stormwater was one. That manhole cover is boiling up on 2nd Street after a very slight rain. You probably have seen it a zillion times. And then when you begin to look at sort of the catchment areas and where the water is coming from, all these pinch points, you've got two big areas that funnel right into places where you have regular problems. So that gives us a target area, a place to start considering strategies. And that's exactly kind of what we're talking about. I'm not going to go through all the detail. There's a lot of stuff in the plan. If you have questions, talk to your staff or call me anytime. We'll get back with you with any detail. But there are a number of things to try to reduce the amount of stormwater or slow it down when it rains in order to keep these flooding points from really popping up with just a little bit of rain. We know more now than we did when these places were originally built about things like stormwater and that. So another gross bigger issue is kind of these mobility options. More and more younger families and that they want to be able to bike and walk, and they want communities that support that really well. What does that look like just in terms of connecting your neighborhoods to all the other assets you've got here, your schools, your community, Main Street, your churches and parks, things like that. So what would a network look like? Something that is affordable, something that's achievable over time, bite-sized pieces. We're not talking about, gold plating anything. We worked with your staff, with your community to kind of try to right size this. And it's a guide, this can always change as you move along. The point is to really strongly connect your communities to your assets. Another thing is sort of this impervious surface and urban heat island impact. This is stuff that has really been coming to the forefront as the climate has been getting warmer. Storms get bigger and badder, but also the heat gets hotter. And we find it in places that are built up like old main streets. There's just a lot of concrete and often very little shade. And so we begin to map what the reality is, and then we can begin to develop some strategies to address that. Total project area is, 56 acres. You have 9 acres of that where water can actually get through to the soil underneath what's there. So concrete absorbs heat all day. It releases it back at night. One of the most successful strategies, there are other ways to address this in the plan, but in improving your tree canopy, which also has a lot of other benefits. And then kind of taking an initial glance at existing conditions and then, year 0, when you first, if you were to do this all at once, this is just a snapshot. What it would look like year 1, what are the benefits? Obviously, there are costs associated with this too, and they're outlined in the plan as well. But, and then, year 25, when these trees have grown and are really doing their work to cool the place, to absorb carbon, to drink stormwater, all those sorts of things. And there is actually a kind of a net demonstrated increase in property values when you have mature trees in your communities. Signage and wayfinding, it kind of ties in with people coming into the community as a kind of a entertainment district. Just trying to make that more clear and intuitive for people that are coming into the area where they're parking. Corridor itself, we began to think of it as a series of different places that warrant different treatments. And then I'm only really going to talk about the Festus one. But west of Mill, basically City Hall to Mill, it's a fairly straightforward piece of roadway. But you can see on that plan view, we're looking at the library, how to better connect that to the communities. There's that number, the spot with the number 1 on there, the Mill Street, Main Street intersection. Right now that has some functional challenges and safety challenges, got some sightline issues. Adjusting that intersection slightly really yields some huge safety improvements. It also kind of gives the sidewalk entry point for the buildings on the corner there a little bit of breathing room, helps address some of your ADA compliance issues. So any one of these issues, any one of these recommendations is tied to a whole host of other goals, not just a single goal as we move along. So the main thing about that west of Mill Main Street is kind of defining the lanes a little bit better. And right now that picture on the bottom left, sidewalks are a little narrow. They might feel a little precarious. Your kids are walking to school or whatever. Try to make that work better for more people. Broaden those sidewalks, define the lanes a little better. So Festus Main Street, we spent a lot of time there. This is the most complicated piece of the entire corridor that we were looking at. And just again, a quick snapshot of a few of the things that we looked at. Your use, building conditions, sidewalk. Every blue dot on that sidewalks map is an ADA infraction or non-compliance. I think your sidewalks, you've gotten your money's worth out of them. A little investment might help move things along. Parking again is always an issue. We mapped every parking spot and we compared that to all of the land uses and what the zoning requirements are and all of that sort of thing. The punchline is you have almost enough parking. The problem is you don't have it all where you want it. So, and a lot of it is really inefficiently laid out. So areas like the south of Main Street between 2nd and Main, those first 2 blocks, we've got those big expansive asphalt areas. That's also where you have a lot of acute flooding when the stormwater comes up. So, or pressure on your stormwater system. So how to begin to alleviate that? If we've got pavement, we can give up, ways to help achieve other goals. Festus Main Street. If we're going to make the sidewalks work in an ADA compliant way, what's your transition plan look like? Your federally required transition plan. How do we get this to work? There isn't enough width between the curb and the building faces to make it all work. You've got a lot of slopes and steps and building entries are difficult. And so something's got to give. Working with your community, we looked at a number of options. Giving up parking on one side of the street seemed to be the way to go. And we decided it would probably be best giving up the parking on the south side of the street because the north side, the sun clears the buildings and in the winter, that's where the snow melts. Those parking spaces are more usable more of the year because of the snowfall and the sunfall and how that kind of helps address that problem all on its own. So by doing so, we're able to widen the sidewalks enough to where when you have to ramp up to get into a storefront, you still have a 5-foot ADA path that will meet federal requirements, federal standards. And then it also opens up space for like sidewalk dining and street trees and some of these other things. You want to be careful with trees and your signage. You don't want those to conflict, kind of thought through a lot of that. So again, there's more detail in the plan. And that other diagram, how to better connect the parking to the main street. We're talking about recommending some passageways, whether they're existing spaces or there's one small, very small building. If it changes hands or if it becomes vacant, that might be a good opportunity to punch another connection into the parking behind. And so visually what this begins to look like, modeling this, that's the space. Suddenly you have areas for planting where you can begin to draw some of the stormwater in before shooting it all down the hill, things like that. So our transportation planners have assured us this all still works for large delivery trucks, for fire vehicles, all this sort of stuff. There's plenty of room out there for this to all work. One of the great things we had about your main street is that you don't have a speeding problem. Traffic really behaves. It's a great spot. Be glad you don't have that issue. I've been out here a lot. I just drove, I just drove down your street again before coming here. I was doing like almost 20 and it almost felt like I was being rude. So again, that stormwater issue, green space connectivity, how to tie in. Our landscape architect, very talented guy, had a seed of an idea and he just took off with it. This drawing for a space south of 2nd Street isn't a project. This is probably a dozen projects over time. Yeah. Well, as it turns out, from a stormwater management standpoint, nothing works as well as an open stream. Those channels fill up and they're long-term, they're expensive infrastructure. Yeah. So these are the recommendations we landed on, but it also incorporates a number of outdoor functional space for your community. And then connections to Shropshire Park up the hill and that sort of stuff. Kind of, again, better tie those neighborhoods back to Main Street and the spaces behind. This is good auxiliary space for any activities and functions you have on your Main Street. This was an idea that the community got pretty excited about when we were in our public meetings. So again, there's a lot more detail in the books that you have, but I'm just going to move through it. So putting it all together, this is kind of what your Festus Main Street begins to look like. Blur your eyes, imagine yourself at 30,000 feet. We know it's unlikely that all of this will get built exactly as drawn. The main point is that it's the plan that's considered a whole range of issues: economics, ecology, parking, your land use, your governance, all of these sorts of things baked in. And so it's a good fuzzy view. It's a good guide for making decisions. Some recommendations have a window, do it now because it's cheap and easy, or it's foundational work for things you want to do later on. Some of these things are 10 and 15, maybe even 20-year decisions. So it's a whole host. It's not a project with a price tag. It's a whole range of coordinated recommendations that get you where the community kind of said they want to be. So I would definitely think about it that way. One thing I'd like to point out on this south parking lot between Main and 2nd is you'll see green space. You'll see it's been restriped in a different direction. We've given up a fair amount of pavement. We're taking in a lot more stormwater to percolate down in, help alleviate some of the stormwater issues at a net gain of something like, I don't know, what was it, 50 something parking spaces. So just by addressing the inefficiencies in the parking that's out there and how it's laid out right now, we can gain more parking and still address a lot of other issues. You'll notice there are some parking recommendations on the north side as well. I did want to touch briefly on the Bailey-Truman intersection. It's not really Festus, but it affects you daily. So this intersection, again, it's really, there's a whole lot of pavement out there with the volume of traffic is much less than the capacity of the roadway. So there's just a lot of excess pavement, and that pavement is getting in the way of other things, like the parking of the restaurant. I forget the name of it, on that Yeah, is really pinched. This gives it enough room to make that parking work better. It makes it much more crossable. If you're on foot or on a bicycle, the traffic, it can still handle the traffic flows at peak just fine, according to the modeling. Anyway, it's a way to try to clean it up, enhance the market value of these properties and the functionality of these properties over time. And hopefully dress up the better, the doorway into your main street. So, and the stoplight diner, is going to do well too. So don't want to touch them. So we also got into some different detail issues. Not all of it's like land use and yellow and orange boxes on a plan. Building facades. That gets to the character of your main street, the character of your place, the design, why people would want to come here is for the environment. When you have a quality environment, shoppers and diners, people coming to these districts, they stay longer, they spend between 12 and 18% more. If the place is somewhere they want to be, it has direct impact on your tax revenues. It's an investment up front, but there is a payback at the end. It's not just street ornamentation. There are actual market consequences to this. Historic district designation, I know that's in process. I encourage you to finish that up. That makes your historic buildings eligible for state and federal tax credit programs. That's there to maintain the quality of these buildings through a quality appropriate renovation. It's a tool that will make a lot of these properties pencil out in a way that isn't, siding on the front and cheap windows. So there are a whole host of developers that love these programs. Not all of them do. It costs time and money. But the money in the program more than compensates for the premium involved, hopefully enough to make it worth their time. That's the intent of the program. I used to do these a lot. I practiced architecture for about 17 years, focused on these. They can be really beneficial. They're not for everyone in every project, but I think it's a very good thing for your district. And then consistency with signage, lighting, windows, and awnings. I think that's something, those recommendations are also in your in the zoning recommendations in this piece, in this plan. The environmental pieces, it's stormwater, it's tree coverage, it's energy and water use guidelines. And then incentive programs to target those areas that dump all of that water into those pinch points that we have. And there are good example programs to draw from. You may not wind up doing all of this, but these are recommendations for, we think you would want to consider at least. I have community improvement district up here, given the earlier agenda item. I don't know what your interest level in that is. However, the main point is for your business community and your district to have some sort of formal organization. A CID is a good model that works well in a lot of places. Again, it's not for everywhere, but it's something that's relatively straightforward to set up in the state of Missouri. It's and the main target functions right now would be maintenance and marketing for the areas so they can really begin to draw in more visitors, more money, and keep the place up. But then some future potential activities as well. Again, a host of zoning recommendations, mostly targeted at consistent zoning across your districts for Festus and Crystal City, but also to address any conflicts we saw between your existing zoning and the recommendations in the plan. And then collaborative branding was a piece that came out of this as well. In order to get things across the finish line, we took a look at phasing, kind of what the logical order of this would be so that you're not ripping out new construction to make way for the next construction. And just to functionally prepare, address the parking on the north side before you disrupt the parking on the south side and those sorts of things. And then almost every recommendation in here has a quick synopsis. There's more detail in the appendices. The plan is this thick. The appendices are much more detail. What's the time frame recommended? The cost opinion in today's dollars. Who would take on this project, this particular recommendation? milestones and any related notes to it. So we try as much as we can to tie recommendations into scope, schedule, budget, and who's going to move the ball. So that it has a better chance of implementation being a practical tool for Greg and Matt and the rest of your staff to move forward with. So we don't have a perfect track record on these plans, but we have a pretty solid track record on these plans, being good tools for your staff and communities. So if you have any questions at this point, I'd be glad to answer. If I've put you to sleep, I get that too. So,
You don't see Target on there? We're putting it right next to the Costco and the Red Lobster.
No, that's a very good look of what we'd like to see.
Okay.
I mean, it really looks great. I hope a lot of it can happen sooner than later, but
yeah, some of it's fairly straightforward. Some of it's a heavy, long lift. I will say the piece of this plan that has the shortest shelf life with any of these plans is the market component. So as things move forward after another, say, 4 or 5 years, you probably want to gut check recommendations about the market capacity and market recommendations. So.
yeah, it'd be nice to see because it's well overdue. Main Street is, we've talked about it. I've been on the council like Kevin for a lot of years. And we've been trying to do something with that Main Street for a lot of years.
Yeah, you're in a good time in that the infrastructure bill that came out a little over a year ago, last month, has a lot of additional funding in there for projects that begin to tick a number of boxes like this, ecology and development and all these sorts of things, multimodalism, walking and biking and petting. So there's more money available for these types of things. Unfortunately, the match requirement tends to stay static at your level, but maybe it just puts more resources out there. So you have maybe some good choices in front of you.
That's very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other questions? If not, we'll move right along. Councilman Boyer.
Like to congratulate Doug there on his appointment. And sure you do a fine job. You've been doing a pretty good job all along anyway. Matt, did you get a chance to look at that mirror that's missing down there on South 2nd Street?
You're exactly right. It is certainly missing and I didn't see it anywhere in the barn. So it evidently got taken, I would guess.
Okay.
It didn't get returned to us. So we'll order another one.
Okay, good deal. Seemed like the homeless population seemed like it's increasing in the area, and I know it can be problematic. The 122 residents, I'm kind of like Kevin on that. I didn't think that they was should be opened yet, but since they are, we've granted it. I think we need to set up something where periodic checks, like every 3 months or something like that. We should look at the record of how it's doing. And that's about all I have, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. Councilman Weiner.
With Councilman Boyer there, I think we are seeing a lot more homeless around here. And to hear the gentleman say that he had helped, I believe 17, I think was the number that he's helped locally here. So I hope that there's a way for the neighbors and the community to be able to feel comfortable about this situation, hopefully with better communications with the city and with the home. I hope that that will happen. And congratulations, Chief to be Doug. Great job and look forward to your tenure, sir.
Thank you, Councilman Cook.
Thank you, sir. Doug, congratulations. Brian, quick question for you. I was at a meeting down outside of Cape, and there's a city in Missouri that is trying to contest the loitering laws. Help me out in the wording. They're basically begging on MoDOT's property.
DePere is embroiled in a bit of a kerfuffle on that right now. So
Can we keep an eye on that? Because I'd like to see how that comes out, because
the gentleman that challenged the St. Louis County ordinance, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Brian, Mr. Fernandez, and won the $150,000 settlement from the county, is now challenging the city of De Pere's ordinance, which addressed it from a public safety, basically pedestrians in the roadway perspective. So that is currently being handled at the municipal court. And they're asking for the dismissal of the charges against him because he likes to stand at 270 in Manchester. But yeah, it is something we're monitoring. The angle from which they're approaching it is not something that's foreign in a number of communities, where they're basically saying that pedestrians in the roadway, it's just not safe. Obviously, cars are going 25, 30 miles, 40, 50 miles an hour in the road, and having a person standing there is not a safe place to be. So we are monitoring it. It's going to probably be a while before that one shakes out, though.
Okay. And last thing is, I threw something at Josh. I thought I'd run it by the rest of the council, just food for thought. What if we expanded our West City lights? And Josh had a couple of ideas, and I won't get deep, but I'd like to see us possibly be open to it. Maybe the city putting some lights up, not like a music display, but increase the light flow, open it up to have more residents with the ability to do live lights, maybe offer a church a live nativity scene, something to really open it up and make it worthwhile to drive through there. Maybe next year, just food for thought popped in my head, and I thought it'd be something interesting to do to give people more to do. Again, congratulations, Doug, and Mayor, that's all I have, sir. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilman Collier.
Congratulations, Doug. Looking forward to having you serve even longer. I don't know if everybody else has noticed like me, but ever since Texas Roadhouse has opened, you can't find a parking spot in that parking lot. Every time I go by there, it's just packed. So that is really a good addition to our city, I think.
I don't want to.
For many years to come. Yeah. Go ahead.
Let me interrupt you just a moment. We tried to go there last night, an hour waiting time. And this was at 6:30 in the evening, and that parking lot was full.
Yeah. That's good.
Go ahead, sorry.
I also noticed that that on the corner of A and 67 and 61, 67, they're starting to clear. Does that mean our apartment complex is in the process of being started?
Have they have their land disturbance? Yeah. Yes,
That's
sir.
a good thing. So there's some development there that we can look forward to too. So, and Mill Street is really looking good once we get the lights up and going, if we can get the electric company to get going. No, not anymore. That's all I got, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Councilwoman Templeton.
Congratulations, Doug. Only thing I really had was the Verigy kickoff, which is listed here as start date of January 23rd. Is there like a timeline of anticipated what that will entail, or?
I don't think I have individual timeline yet, but when I do, I'll share it with everybody. The back building at Public Works has, the work's already begun. It was more temperature sensitive, so we wanted to get the tuck pointing in as quickly as possible. But the rest of the work, as soon as I have a schedule, I'll share it with you guys.
And the only other thing is I agree with Dave as far as the house on Adams, making sure that we're proactive and not so much reactive with that situation. Just, I think being able to monitor it for appropriate use, and that, you know, the PD is not having more problems than solutions. You know, I'm willing to give them a chance if they've, you know, at this point, but I don't think it's something we can kind of just put rose-colored glasses to. That's it.
All right, thank you, Councilman Vance.
Congratulations, Doug. Known you for a good long time and proud you're going to be our chief. And Councilman Cook, just like you said on those lights, I've been to them a couple of times, Josh. I like it. He kind of took my thing. I was going to see if there's a way to expand that. Sure. Either, yeah, but how many times have you been there? But yeah, because it's very nice. Even the Halloween, I'm not saying Halloween's okay, but the Christmas, I love Christmas. And I didn't know between tourism or what the city could do to make that better. But yeah, that was something I'd love to. I mean, a lot of people have bragged about it, talked about it. They're enjoying the heck out of it. And so, yeah, I figured like Councilman Cook, if there's any way we can expand anything to make it more, that would be great. And, but, other than that, everybody have a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and see y'all next year.
Councilman Dennis.
Once again, absolutely welcome Doug. He's been around. We're expecting great things out of him. My question for Matt, how are we doing on the speed sign over on Horine?
We just took it down today in preparation for it to be sent back to the company. That firm we bought them from has a 2-year warranty.
Mhm.
So we'll be sending those in for the two that are, well, that one I guess got hit by a beer bottle, but the other one that's just on the fritz will be sent in for repair. So we anticipate one will be covered under warranty and the other one will have to pay for some refurbishment.
So I seen over on South Mill where they've already cut a large chunk of our sidewalk out for something.
Yeah, don't get us started on that. That is frustrating, Kevin. The contractor, Sunrise Telecom, which has a boring permit from us, decided they needed to cut out a chunk of brand new sidewalk. They did it either over the weekend or early last week. I spent some time on the phone with Adam Jones, who's our project inspector with Cochran, with Chuck Kimes. He's not happy, obviously. We still have to have our semifinal inspection with MoDOT. And already the sidewalk's been damaged by this contractor that just, I've never dealt with anything like this, a contractor that works in this way. So, yeah, we're aware, and we'll get it fixed. We'll get it right.
Yeah, I rolled by there the day they were doing it and I almost called you, but I thought, oh, surely somebody knows. So I was like, oh boy, we just put that in. It's beautiful now. It just looks like they're going to cut, and they did. They're putting the saw up as I went by. So, okay, you're on that. The other thing, for a better word, I feel a little bit duped on this thing over on Adams. I would have liked to known that they were already in there from the get-go. I'm not sure why we weren't told that they'd already pretty well done the deal and was in it and were functioning as that role. I do not see why that was not relayed to us, because I think that's pretty important that they just built the place, set it up, and we're going. Why weren't we told that right off the bat? That was the last thing I heard today. And I don't think that's right.
All righty. Anything else, Kevin?
Well, I was hoping for an answer.
I can't speak to it. I don't know obviously we've communicated all the information that council has asked for related to this. And Mark or I certainly don't know why they moved into the facility prior to notifying us. As soon as we are aware of that, Mark and his staff did everything they can to make sure that they're compliant, which is how it ended up in front of, the public notice, the P&Z, bringing it to council. And if I hate the fact that you feel you were duped. That's, I don't like that, that you feel that you were duped. At the same time, when we find these issues, whether it's a zoning issue or a code issue, we do our best to try to bring them compliant. And this was the process that, culminated with the meeting tonight. So I apologize. If you feel you were duped. But at the same time, we're just trying to, if they can be compliant, we'll help them be compliant as best we can.
Well, it makes me wonder why, if it's such a great project, that they went about it the way they did. Because we've had other people come to us and we've stopped them in their tracks with worthy projects. It just didn't work out. And this one here, it seemed like the more we dig into it, the more there's an issue with it. And I was on board tonight and ordered that. And it's like, well, you didn't go by any of the, like everybody else is, but if you weren't told, there's nothing you can do. You were duped also. So I hope that's what it was. I hope that, I don't know. I mean, it's in there now and now I guess with it, but it don't seem like the neighbors knew about it, which they told us everybody. I hope it works out. I guess, maybe there's other things that come up that will explain it better. So, but I guess that's all I have at this time.
All righty, thank you. Well, I'd like to congratulate Doug, myself. And I'd like to wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I think we've had a pretty good year. And looking forward to having a better year next year. And that's about it. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed.